on the Jordan's jumping in here. Y'all better be respectful. All right. Um, this is Mr. Jordan Watkins. I'll give you a little blurb on him in a minute. But guys, hey, thank you for those of you that did. Let's see. Oh, here it is. Mr. Ethan Bell, 100 experiences. Look at that. Okay, how hard was this?
Uh, I am a do it at the last minute, so I just spent like 6 hours straight on this thing. So it was good. It was a good grind.
Okay, we're gonna
Uh,
work on that bullshit last minute stuff. Thiago, how hard was it?
uh, I, I've been doing it for a while. It didn't. It was pretty easy. I have a lot of consumerism issues, so it was pretty easy to get to a lot of the stuff, and I have a lot of things that I want to buy and accomplish and go to in the world. So it was kind of fun for me and didn't take much thought.
Easy for the guy that comes from nothing to get to it. Mr. Joseph, 100 things you want to acquire, 100 experiences you want to have. How hard was it?
Well, I think the problem was I started too general and then I had to get specific. So I was like, go to a concert at the bowl. And then I was like, at the end, I was like, go to this artist concert and then this artist concert and go to this game and that. So experiences was hard. Items was not too bad for sure.
Mr. Hunter Mudrovich, you're next on my list. How hard was your lists?
The experiences was actually pretty easy. I got a nice flow going, but the 100 things took me forever. I had to like at one point I was on Nordstrom's website and I was like, oh, this is a good moment to just scroll through and find things I like. And then I started thinking, well, if I was a billionaire, what would I want? What are things I'd want to own? So then I started putting down like private jet, an island in the Caribbean. I started getting, a little creative there, but it took me forever to get 100 things.
Just buy Nordstrom's.
Right.
Maybe that's the truth, Ethan. Mr. Hellman, 100 things.
I did not think it was easy at all. I kept stalling out, started using the internet to try to find inspiration for things, which just turned into me just taking other people's ideas. So I struggled with this one just because you kind of touched on it on the flip side. I didn't come from nothing, so it's hard to find things that I want with what we were like trying to look for.
The
So
duality of man.
Well, I'm going to have in a minute here, each of you give one sentence. So prep yourselves to Mr. Jordan Watkins about what Jordan, you can hear me, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I can hear you.
I want you to each give a sentence to Mr. Jordan about what you do, where you are at, real quick, 10, 15 seconds. And then I'm going to introduce Jordan right now while you think about those sentences. The goal is I want Jordan to know who he's talking to. Obviously, this week, as you know, this month, I should say, we are talking about career advancement, what that looks like. I honestly would love to have had Jordan. Karsten, there's no noise. You're going to sit and observe. That's it. I would love to have had Jordan last week because I think it would have been great. But now realizing what we got this week, I think it actually, praise God, it's a perfect fit. Jordan is somebody who has been at Amazon now for 3.5 years. Is that right, Jordan? One of the last people hired by Boeing that still had a pension, which is kind of a reference to timing more than excellence in his career, but worked very hard, worked himself up to the director level. Correct me if I'm wrong. At the youngest age of a director ever at Boeing, I believe. Is that a fair statement? So,
That's correct.
director level at Boeing, got a pension, next in line to move up into that VP role. They had him fully slated for, I won't go as far as to say CEO, but he is on the path. He was Boeing from the beginning. When he switched over to Amazon, it was quite shocking. It happened during a time in his life that was a little bit more turbulent, coming to an end. And he landed at Amazon. And then within the last 3 years, already seen three promotions. And I don't even know how many people he worked for him at this point, running the entire AWS division for everything and putting up servers and buildings and multi-millions of dollars. And so Jordan has just seen promotion after promotion, both in Boeing and in Amazon. So if what we're looking for is what does career advancement look like, you're welcome. You have a great man here who's going to take as much time as he wants to explain him and talk about that topic. You are, as always, expected to send him a thank you card when it's done. It will be handwritten, it will be grateful, it will be purposeful. You are not paying for this right now. I hope to do that for you next year. So I expect that card. I expect good questions, please, by all means, and to give him his attention. So, Jordan, before you get a shot, if you don't mind, I'm going to go around same order: Ethan Bell, Madriaga, Joey, Burbage, Hellman. Give us a quick 10, 15 seconds. What do you do, where you're at, what your age is? Ethan, you're up.
How's it going, Jordan? Thanks for coming. My name is Ethan. I currently live in Santa Barbara, went to Westmont College, grew up in California, pretty decent sized family. I'm at a startup with my uncle. Call ourselves like corporate bounty hunters, and we go after assets they have that are, it's just random companies that are gone, deceased, and we go after those. So that's what I'm doing now. 25. That's my age too.
Gotcha.
Muted.
There we go. Let's go next. I'm Ethan Madriaga. I'm 22. I'm a senior at Westmont College. I am finishing up my last year, like I said, gonna probably sell some real estate, hopefully with Kamran over the next couple of years, possibly go into law school. Interested in the business side, corporate M&A law, and yeah.
Nice. Pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
Joey.
Hey, Jordan. I'm 24. I also live in Santa Barbara. I'm just kind of getting at the ground floor at Decker's Brand. I work for the Hoka specific division, if you're familiar with the shoes. Also graduated from Westmont College, and then I also am a bartender as well. So, yeah, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Classic margarita for me on the rocks with salt. We'll call it good.
Beautiful.
What's going on, Jordan? Good to see you. As
Hunter.
you know, I was with Kamran for 3 years, and now in the past month, actually exactly a month, September 9th was my last day with him. So I'm on my own now, joined a new brokerage and trying to do this my way. So very excited, and I'm 28.
Good stuff. Good to see you again.
Hey, Jordan, I'm Hunter Hellman. There's two of Hunters in this group. I just actually made the jump from retail over to corporate, moving from working Apple retail to now working for Appfolio. And I am an IT specialist working in their IT department. And I've been there, what are we, in October? About 3 months now, almost 3 months. So Kamran has mentioned your name before as someone who's very experienced in the corporate world. So I'm really excited for this call we're on today. And I'm 32.
Pleasure to meet you. Nice. Yes. Well, thank you. Kamran Price has way too many nice things. Let's be honest about that up front. I mean, if I've ever met a salesman, he would be the top one I've ever known in my life.
Ouch.
So we know that piece, right?
That full of shit.
I wouldn't expect anything less. So it's a pleasure. And yeah, good to meet you. Kamran at first gave me kind of some rundowns, what we were talking about, careers, corporate life, career progression. Happy to answer any questions, no matter where this goes. It's good to catch up with all of you and kind of see where you're at. And just little reference, you guys know, Hunter helped me buy my house here. So he was working with Kamran at the time when we closed the deal, and appreciated his efforts as he's shown me around a few times. So familiar with him personally also. So when I started way back in a long time, and we can get into all this stuff, one of my wise mentors always told me, your career goes in stages. You got to accept some of those stages. And there's times of your career that you build depth. So how much foundation do you lay? And then there's times that it shoots up. And so you grow. And in that, you have to be prepared for the moments that are growing your foundation or your depth, and then the moments you shoot up. And he used the analogy of a stair, right? And said, in your life, you will climb stairs, and sometimes it feels flat and sometimes it goes up. It was wonderful. Since then, I've seen a much better space. So in China, there's a Chinese proverb about you plant a bamboo seed. So you plant it, you start watering it. And as you water it, you come out, you water it, you water it every day, you water it, you water it. And in the first 6 months, it sprouts up, little green thing. You're like, sweet, plant's growing, right? You get the little spuds. You water it, you water it, you water it, you water it. For the next 4 years, 4 years, bamboo tree does nothing. It's just a little sprout. And in the 5th year, a bamboo tree can grow 12 feet. 12 feet, like crazy. And so you had to stop. And then they asked and they said, now, did that bamboo tree grow 12 feet in 1 year? Or did that bamboo tree grow 12 feet in 5 years? Because if you didn't water it all 5 years, you didn't let those roots grow, there's no way that the bamboo tree can go 12 feet high. And I've thought that a lot about my career. You never know when your career is actually going to grow. Hard to predict. But you have to keep watering it and keep understanding that you're building a foundation with every experience. So I can imagine in some of this, Ethan, I heard you talk about you potentially want to work for Kamran and you want to go sell some houses. And I know Hunter's done this as well. And what that means is every relationship you have is a friendship, is a relationship, and potentially someone you're going to help buy a house or sell a house to. You water that even when someone may not be looking at a house. 1 second, I'm going to get my son over here. Just give me 1 sec. Oh, Davis, come here. There you go, buds. So I may have to, my son needs one. We'll see. He may come join the party over here as we're soloing. My wife, we'll talk about her career in a second. Amazing as well. But in that space, everything you're building, you want to find the value and you want to make sure that you continue to water it. So I come with that perspective of I never knew what pace my career would go. Since the last, as Kamran loves to tell, the highlights, the last 5 years have been amazing, right? I was at Boeing 16 years, though. I was at Boeing 16 years. Did a lot of jobs. I lived overseas. I moved. I was in Long Beach, California, came up to Seattle, was working in Renton. Then I commuted an hour each way up to Everett. And then I was in Bellevue, and then I was back. Lots of things have changed over that time. And so when you hear the highlights, or even today, when I look at someone like Kamran, I see what he's doing. I see the sales, the houses, the places. I'm sure he shared. I knew Kamran when he was trying to sell internet and got fired. Like, let's be really honest. He likes to tell you he got let go. He got fired from the cable company. Like, who gets fired from cable companies? And yeah. And so I share that out of so much can happen, but the experience he learned during that time, hey, this is my son, Levi. The experience he learned during that time, I'm sure has shaped how he conducts himself today. Some of the decisions he's made, the passion he's put behind starting out on his own, what he's learned in that, understanding the corporate structure wasn't necessarily for him, but how to build that foundation continually and take those learnings and establishing a business and giving back. So I just kind of start with that. And I can go into some of who I am, but it's important to know when you think of your career in so many ways of what you're doing today matters so much about tomorrow, more so than you probably think, right? And most of you are super young. I'm 41. I mean, I think the oldest you were 35, you said, if I'm not mistaken, 132. Yeah. So tons of years. Like you got a whole life ahead of you of like things that will change. And it's really good. So with that said, a little history of where I was. Studied at UC San Diego. I got to play basketball there. I came out of California. So I'm in California. I was in Monterey is where I grew up. And then went to school at UC San Diego and played basketball there for 4 years, scholarship, had a blast. From there, went off and started working for Boeing. They recruited me out. Well, always loved planes, trains, automobiles, ships, any big mechanical thing I was enamored by. And So when I got the opportunity to go work at Boeing and not be an engineer, I was an econ major, political science major. I was like, sweet, let's go see. I didn't know they would hire operational type people, right? And I found myself in kind of an executive development program. So I rotated through the company for my first 2.5 years, hit all different divisions, got to travel. It was glorious. And then they kind of said, pick where you want to be. And so from there, learned a lot. I built airplanes with my hands. I did engineering. Got to study in Japan for lean and shingijutsu. And in the meantime, Boeing paid for both my master's degrees. So I have two master's degrees. I went to USC. So I have a master's in accounting and business finance. And then I have my MBA as well. When I structured it, and this is where some of that starting that foundational thought said, you can't, at the time, back when I was young, they didn't like you to get your MBA right after college. I always knew I wanted to get my MBA because I always wanted to run the world and I want to be the biggest dog out there in the world. And so to do that, you need an MBA. Well, it turns out right after college, they're like, you need some experience. So I got to go to Boeing. And while I was at Boeing, I didn't want to get out of the rhythm of things, right? I wasn't married. I was young, didn't have a house, nothing I was worried about. So I worked and then I went to school at night to do accounting and business finance. And I chose accounting and business finance because, as you guys learn, if you understand math, money, accounting, how to do your finances, all the rest of those pieces come into play. Yes, you might have to sell, you might have to think critically, you may have to lead people, but at the core of all the things we do comes down to, do you know the financial structures, business, balance sheets, assets, return on investments, right? And so I studied that, and I had to kill 2 years in my mind anyways before I can get my MBA. So I was able to get that done. And then I went on, got my MBA, which is just an incredible experience. I will not say it is required. I will not say it is necessary. It does change how you think. And so if you are remotely interested in the value of an MBA, it will change how you think. And more importantly, the people you meet in your class will change your connections because they are doing the same things. They're trying to advance their careers. There are people that are looking for the future. They come from diverse backgrounds, and it will absolutely change where you're at. And so it doesn't have to be USC, Stanford, or Harvard. I think there are so many good schools that will teach you what you can do. Personally, I do think going to a campus is a nice thing. There's a lot of online schools. You can check the box, but you will miss half the value. Just like this group here, when you get to talk to each other, you gain a lot more than potentially just showing up, passing the test, submitting your homework, and going home. So something to think about, but that's not required. I will say that by no means, but it was good for me. Did that. I spent another 10 years with Boeing. Moved, thought it was my life. Had a pension, had a salary, was on a track, as Kamran said. And personally, I'll be very open and candid about it, was going through a divorce. It was a messy time in my life. I was 35, so not that long ago. I was 35, and I found myself living away from my family, actually at my dad's house, 35 with 3 kids, and living with my dad. And half my money was going to just more than half to just support my family and try to make ends meet. My car was worth maybe $5,000, and I had to commute every day in and out of work. Then COVID hit. So now we all get to stay home, right? Let's all stay home in COVID and not do anything. So here I am, 35. Who wants a 35-year-old man who's divorced with 3 kids and has to give all his money away to his ex-wife? That was me, right? And I had a $5,000 like Chevy. Whoop-de-doo. It was like best time in my life. But during those hard times, what I had learned was I was freeing up some kind of capacity in myself. And so there's a lot in life as you pick partners, as you realize who's in your life, as you realize what you strive for. I had lost touch with that. My job, my career at times had been a focus, or my family had been a focus, or I actually even lost who I was and the value I was bringing. And so kind of lesson number 2 on top of building a foundation is really don't lose sight of who you are. You bring value in so many unique ways. And in a corporate life, that can get sucked out because they will talk a lot about how you fit the model, how you rank against your peers, what skills do you have? And every one of you, each person has a unique skill set. And as you develop that and you bring that diversity and that differing thought processes to people, it's incredible. And so don't lose who you are, because I did for a while. So coming out of that, I honestly got recruited by Amazon. They had reached out. First time ever in my life, I had a LinkedIn account. I set it up. No other reason. I don't do social media. That's all I have. And in that space, I set up my LinkedIn account and I said, okay, let's go see what's out there. Amazon reached out, knocked on my door. And during a time when you have nothing, you feel like you have nothing to lose, everything was changing in my life. I wasn't secure anymore. I didn't have my house. I didn't have anything. My kids were half time. It made so much sense to say, well, let's change this career. Let's go see what's out in the big bad world, right? And I wasn't scared to go take that chance. I had been accustomed to Boeing. I had learned it. I was good at it. I built planes. I had a network. I knew people. And so I go back to Kamran when he was selling houses. He took a chance in corporate world, didn't work out. And now he comes back to find who he really is in a different space. Same industry, but a different space, right? And essentially that's what happened to me. I was working supply chain, leading the global supply chain for Boeing at that time. And they asked me to come essentially work on Amazon.com, running the big fulfillment center. So I said, sure. So I was still in supply chain, running giant robotic warehouses here in the Washington area. Jumped in. So if you see some of those similarities, probably why me and Kamran get along so well. I changed companies. I left stable Boeing. I left manufacturing. I left airplanes. I left pensions. I joined high tech, but I was still in my industry of supply chain, logistics, and leadership, right? I've been leading teams for a long time in this space. And so I had a site with 3,000 plus people. I had over 500 robots in the site as well, conveyor belts that could go around the world if you stretched them all out, but 2 times or something crazy like that. One of those fancy places. And it was good, but it was a 24-hour operation. You worked every day, all weekends. Teams were there, people were there, and did that for about 7 months. And then I got a call to come join AWS's strategy team, leading their logistics for data center launches. So anything inside and out for cloud computing of a data center for AWS, I covered at the time, was leading strategy globally, which is great. I had no direct reports. I was just leading strategy for them, being a project manager, talking about supply chain. That came because I had reached out. Yeah, buddy, that had come. So here's lesson 3. Because someone reached out to me and said, you should meet this person. I said, sweet. Talked to him. His name was Dan. Met Dan. Dude, you okay? There you go. So I met Dan. And Dan, as boring as the name was kind of just whatever. He's like, hey, well, I told to talk to you. Yeah. What do you do? Oh, this. Okay. How long you been here? Cool. All right. Well, that's good. He said, what are you interested in? I said, well, I'd like to make a shift. I like AWS. Sounds pretty cool. I'm running this. He's like, okay. He's like, well, I don't have a job. I was like, that's good. I wasn't looking for a job. I was just told to meet you. I said, okay. And that was it. That happened in February. So February of 20, I don't know, 22? Whoa, yeah, 22, something like that. Come November, so fast forward 8 months, Dan reaches out to me. I hadn't talked to him. Nothing. Hey, I got a job. I want you to apply for it. Okay. Like, no idea, out of the blue, doing my thing, hadn't talked to the guy. Like, no anything. Got a job for you. I want you to apply. Okay. Meet with a couple people on his team, end up getting the job. That's how I lead strategy. So when we talk about you first build a foundation so that you have a skill set, you can do multiple things. You've worked in diverse environments. You understand where your passion's at. 2, right? You start to really say, all right, what's my uniqueness? What am I learning in this? How do I not lose myself? 3, I start to come forward and say, whoa, any opportunity can change in an instant, even when you're not thinking about it. Now, I'm a man of faith. And for me, that's God just working in me, right? He had to get me right. I had to learn enough. I had to know enough. I had to be ready emotionally, physically, mentally to even be able to just say yes. So it happens. I was ready for the opportunity and I said, sweet. I'd already moved. I'd already left Boeing. I'd already joined this. So taking a different job didn't seem scary. And my life changed drastically from that moment on. So I didn't have to work weekends anymore. Yes, what do you want? I'm talking. You see them? They're listening. You want to say hi again? Yeah, hi. Hi. We can get you a muffin if you want. No? Okay. So, anyways, with that said, my life changed and I got to lead strategy, but I wasn't leading people. And so I didn't have people anymore, which changed things for me. There you go, Bets. You can take this. Whoa, whoa. There you go. You want it? Take it. I wasn't leading people. And I had to kind of self-reflect on that. And it actually was really fun. I got to go back to some of my roots. I got to say it felt like a step back. You go from leading 3,000 people, feeling like everyone's asking you questions. You're king of the world. Like it feels like that when you get to be in that spot. And then you go to just you. And I have a boss and I have to produce and I have to show up. Um, what was fun was I got to kind of say, take a pause, focus on my skill sets again, build a foundation in myself of what I'm good at, and not just rely on the things I was doing, right? It was a new growth. It was a new space for me to go focus just on strategy, produce docs, really focus on my writing, my speaking, my presentation skills, go out and build a network again of people. And so got to do that. And within 6 months of that job, they had a guy that was leaving. And this is how crazy it is. So I get a call in my boss's office. He goes, hey, do you like what you're doing? I said, love it. He's like, do you want to do something different? I said, no, because obviously you're talking to your boss. Like, you ain't going to say, I want to do something different. Like, no one says that. And so I was like, no, I'm great. I love what I'm doing. He goes, well, would you be interested? And I said, I would. This would be awesome. He says, well, the guy who's doing this job, leading North America and South America for all of our operations, is for AWS, distribution, logistics, supply chain, is leaving. Whoa. I said, yeah, sign me up. Put me in, coach. And so they said, great, job's yours. And so then I got to do this job. And that's what I'm doing today. Little did I know when I talk about God's plan and God's timing, when they reached out to me way back, and I finally got the strategy job, that guy was already planning to leave. They had had conversations. They were sourcing the replacement of that person at that time. They brought me in not to do strategy. I did a great job of strategy, but not to do strategy, to actually almost audition, try out, interview for this role. But I didn't know that. No one says that. I just said yes. And so being able to say yes to things you might not be comfortable with, being able to say yes to what's next, to be able to do the job you might want before you have it, to do it before you get paid for it, to do it before you even know what you're doing in it. Don't be afraid to say yes. That happens a lot in corporate. People get asked to do a lot of things and they say, why don't I get paid? Or I want the job, or I want that next. It should be my time now. Pay me first. Give me the job first and I'll show you how good I am. It doesn't really happen that way. You go do the job, you earn the job, you build the job, you show that you can do the job just on your own goodwill because you're passionate about it. And that's when they want to take you on. And so those were all big pieces. And lastly, I'll say kind of in corporate, all of you, obviously, and if you don't mind, I'll speak very freely. All of you are male. You're all men. Generally white-ish, right? And I share that in that is something you have to be aware of. You have to know that. You have to say, I don't want to be intimidating. How do I speak? How do I come across? How do my ideas bring diversities to groups? Because your thoughts are what matter, your actions are what matter. People will make assumptions about you up front. And so the reason I bring that is when you work for someone, the number one rule is you want them to grow. The easiest way to get the job you want is get your boss promoted. You want Kamran's job. Get him to go live in a mansion because he's made so much stupid money, he puts you in his job. You laugh, but it's really true. Be his top producer. I didn't know I was taking this other guy's job. I just made him look so good that they felt good that he could retire and I'd take the next role. And so that's something to think about when you're looking up, is not how can I do better so that they'll put me in instead of this person? How can I be better so that I can do what this person's doing? Learn everything you can. And so when I saw Hunter, when he got to work with Kamran, like, you worked there 3 years, it's like, soak it in, learn it, understand, build your foundation, right? Make it so it's so powerful that now you can step and go do that space yourself. Or in this case, if Kamran goes and does something else, you run the region. And I use him because you guys know him, but that works all the same for all of our spaces as well, right? For me in corporate, I helped my bosses get promoted, or eventually they retire, or they take another job, or they do something. And then you're right there as the one everyone sees. So that's my lesson 4 out of the whole deal, is to say at the end, make your boss shine. Make sure you bring a diverse opinion, diverse thoughts. Don't be a yes person. There's great ways to ask questions, to be curious, and make your boss shine. And it really helps. Corporate's just as much politics as anything else. Really is. And so I loved when you were talking about Apple. You started out, right? And then now you're in the apps folio space. And each area, you probably see some differences, and they have different cultures and different places of how it feels and fits. And like the business can seem different, of like, oh, I was technical, or oh, it was operations, or oh, I was stores. I think you mentioned stores. I was running the stores piece. But it still kind of feels probably the same. You're like, there's a boss, there's people, we do a lot of the same stuff. I still use databases and systems, and there's still policies, and I can navigate this. And so you're curious about the product, but you really care about how you're learning it, your skill set, and how you're growing that business for your boss to shine. And you'll do great things and learn it. So all in all, depending on where you're heading, what you're doing, find what you're passionate about. I didn't know I was going to be passionate and stuck in supply chain. Guess I'm not stuck, but wasn't dream coming out of my college and MBA to be like, hey, let's go do supply chain. I was passionate about things. I like cars, planes, boats, trains. That led me to Boeing. Then I said yes in Boeing. That taught me lots of things. And then in supply chain at Boeing, I got to travel, right? And then you go from there and you're like, sweet, I get to learn about products and work with suppliers in diverse areas. That led me to a basis in now logistics. And now today in logistics, I literally go contract charters. We're buying planes. Like, we're literally buying from my old company. I am buying 2 planes, and we're going to go buy 2 747s. You're like, sweet. It's like full circle of life. And I still get to play with really cool things that I'm passionate about. Trains, boats, 18 wheelers, right? Figuring out how to make electric 18 wheelers work over in Europe. It's fun, even though it's supply chain. And so there's some of it, find what you're passionate about, and don't just do it because you think it makes you money. That gets burnt out real quick, and you're usually not as good. Kamran loves his business. I didn't know that. I didn't actually believe it. I thought it was just something he was good at selling. He knows houses. He knows the market. He knows his business, and he's passionate. Like, he doesn't even care. He helps people all the time. He literally the other day helped my buddy buy a house, and Kamran got 0 from it. He might have been a little pissed off, but he got 0 from it. And he just cares. And so make sure you find what you're passionate about, not just chasing what you think is easy money, because it won't work out. You're going to be much better when you have a passion about it. So
I have a dozen questions.
yeah, ask away. We're good. My daughter got here. See, I'll show you.
Go on.
Daughter got home. She got some nice
Harper, I love you.
Kamran. Yes. So We're all good. I got some time, but I talked a lot. So thank you for your guys' time in that.
Great. We're gonna go around in opposite circles. So Hellman, you'll be first, Mudrovich second, Joey third, Ethan four, Ethan B five, Drew six, if you can come up with a good question.
Uh,
Ask a question, please.
yeah. Jordan, you've mentioned a number of different employers, different teams you've been with along the way. I can only imagine you've had to navigate a bunch of changing cultures that you were both either joining or establishing as you made your, jump from team to team. Um, and with that in mind, did you ever run into like major hurdles and how did you address them? In terms of, I guess the short way for me to ask this is, did you ever run into any troubles getting everyone on the same page when it came to like a team culture?
Very much so. And I wasn't always successful. Like, I think when we talk and you see someone, in my mind, when I see someone, I like to think that their path was just always good. And mine wasn't. 16 years was hard. I had enemies. I had times when it wasn't good. I had times when I felt my career went backwards. And so that's when I talk about what foundation are you building, and remember that you bring unique attributes yourself and don't lose in that. Um, Not every culture and not every team fits. And I know we kind of joke, but I even mentioned Kamran at Comcast, right? Trying to sell cable. And not everything fits, but that didn't mean you don't learn. That doesn't mean you don't adjust and you don't grow and pivot from that space. And so staying in that spot, that's bad. Learn from it. And then when you realize you've kind of got what you can out of it, it's okay to pivot. And I think that's where you show real growth and real leadership, and that's an okay space. So it's been hard. There's lots of times that I struggled. I know on the production lines, I've had some issues. I know cultures that didn't fit with a boss whose mentality was different than mine. And I personally love a little chaos. So Amazon works for me now, but I probably didn't when I was young because I didn't know enough to manage the chaos. And now I look at it and I'm like, I love the chaos because I can help bring some order to that and bring that together. And so some people thrive in different places. Being Apple's culture is very different than Amazon's. Microsoft's is very different than Apple's.
Mm.
You can win in each of them. That's a very general statement, though. Taking a piece of that and knowing how you work best and where you fit and how you interact with people best, it works really well to know that, and then just learn from them. But don't be afraid to pivot. And yeah, you'll definitely hit bumps in the road. That doesn't mean you're losing.
Well, yeah, thank you.
Mudrovich.
Yeah, so corporate or otherwise, what do you think is a tangible skill for us to work on and focus on that will help us grow and rise the way you did?
Don't, and I will say this because it's really hard. Don't change who you are. And I had to learn that early on. I tried to be who people wanted me to be. I tried to be honestly more who I thought they wanted me to be, let alone even who they wanted, because you don't really know that. And so I would try to change to go be who I thought they wanted me to be. When you understand and have enough grounding and confidence in yourself, most people are looking for that. They look for that confidence. They look for that self. They look for that knowledge base that you bring, that you inspire in them. A lot of us are winging it. I don't have every answer in my job every day. Most of the time, I don't know the answer. And so you try to gather the information and figure it out. And so in Hunter, in your cases, you're selling houses. If you showed up and you're like, Jordan, this is what it is, or if I don't know it, I'm going to go figure it out, or this is who I am and how I'm bringing it, that inspires confidence that I want to work with you. And over the years, I've even seen Kamran do that over and over and over, where he is unabashedly himself. I don't always agree with all the things he is. I don't like every small aspect. I love who he is overall as a person, and he continues to show up that way, and it inspires me personally. He is someone that's inspired me many a times over the years to just be myself. So don't be afraid to do that. And if I may say, as you do that in relationships, that's the most important too. Number one thing that's allowed, honestly, so much of this to come, I'll say it, is my wife. She's been incredible in inspiring me, supporting me, helping me. She's my best friend. And having someone, a mentor, a spouse, a friend, a family member, whatever that is, that you can kind of talk things through, be inspired and trust to give you some of that honest feedback is really important. And that's why when I saw this is called your accountability group, hopefully you guys are close enough, not only to just listen and learn, but to share with each other and talk with each other and be able to say, call each other on a little bit of BS, but also celebrate the wins together. So don't be afraid to be yourself, Hunter, and just stick to it and keep growing and changing, but in the way that you are.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. I think it's me. Again, thank you, Jordan. And actually, on a side
While
note,
I'm watching, sorry, keep going.
oh, I was gonna say on a side note, actually, my role at Deckers is actually in corporate strategy. So if there's a chance, I'd love to connect if at all possible about kind of what your mindset was in that space.
Very
For a
much so.
different time.
Reach out. Absolutely. Love to set up something.
Awesome. I appreciate that. And kind of in that note, actually, ironically, within that space with building my own foundation, I've started to look, I've been at my role for a year, and there's not really room within my current space to grow. So I've been looking almost outward as well. I was curious for you, because you mentioned how corporate is as much politics as anything else. How did you handle your exit from a place? Did you set groundwork for someone else to succeed? In my case, if I left my role, I'd be leaving a lot of responsibility to others. How do you gracefully transition to a different role without quote unquote screwing your whoever's coming to take your place or whoever's going to pick up the pieces after you leave?
It's something we all, that's a really great question. And it's something we all have to face at time and time again. And so each of us hold a different value set in that. In my opinion, in my experience, and even how I lead my teams and what I expect from people on my teams, and I've seen a company tomorrow, you can show up and they could give you a 2-week notice. Tomorrow. They might. You don't know. You're not even quite sure what's going on. And we say that we feel very valuable in our space, though being real in any large organization, Apple, Amazon, right? Anywhere that's just large with thousands of people, millions of people, there's the next batter up mentality in so many cases, or they'll just go find it. The machine doesn't stop. I've had to lay off a lot of people when I was at Boeing. I've laid off a couple thousand, and Boeing still runs today. I mean, doors come off, but they still run. And so with that, like, you have to know that to them, it's the same. Now, your boss or your coworkers may say, oh my gosh, because in their view, the small view, the really small short term, that's painful. For them, they're actually not concerned about you. And I can tell you, 80% chance, or probably 95% chance, really, but I'll give you 80. You never go back to that company again. And you probably don't even talk to a single person from that company again when you leave. So gracefully, to be honest speaking, find the career you want, find the job you want. Be very upfront with them once you do and say, hey, here's 2 weeks, here's 3 weeks, whatever you personally feel good with and how that aligns with the start date of your next job. I always like to say here's 2 weeks. It takes about that long to get a career together or to get a job posting or a rec out, and then move on and do what you can while you're there for the 2 weeks. And I don't sweat it because it happens all the time. Don't feel bad. Don't get trapped. Otherwise, your immediate peers will just try to milk you for what it is, but that's selfishness on their part. It's not actually about you.
Thank you. That's a very valuable answer. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Joey, Mr. Madriaga.
Yeah, thank you again for your time, Jordan. I got a lot of questions. It's hard to decide which one to go with, so maybe we can connect some other time outside of this. But I'm still in school. School's like mainly on my mind. Law school's on my mind. JD/MBA has been on my mind, you know. Um, like I'm curious about you touched on the MBA a little bit. I was hoping you could explain a little bit more about how that helped you in business and stuff like that, because I don't necessarily want to do law or real estate forever. I mostly want to be in the business realm, doing contracts, mergers, stuff, more business, private equity stuff. So I know MBA is pretty important for that. So I was hoping you could just shed some light on your experience with the MBA, how it's helped you, stuff like that.
Yeah, there's no one path to any job, right? Though I will say, if you are passionate when you talk about contracts or mergers and acquisitions or how you want to work in a business space, still in a law setting, um, back off from some people you know. So go find someone in that setting. You don't have to personally know them. You don't have to go make a connection. You don't have to go talk to them. You can just look at what people in that business tend to do and tend to have in their skill sets. LinkedIn shows you all that. And
Mhm.
you can just say, most of them have an MBA, most of them don't. Most of them studied at a tier one law school. If I want a good job at a big bank, I need to have a tier one law like MBA, or if I want to go to a giant firm, I need to have a tier one law degree. If it's at a smaller company or Amazon, you can be a corporate lawyer, but you may not initially be doing all the things you're thinking. What I
Mhm.
would say is stay open to learn about that industry. If you are passionate about law, stay within law. If you're passionate about corporate law, keep heading down a corporate law path and you will start to learn more. I said, I didn't know supply chain was what I was going to be doing in logistics, right? I didn't know that was really a thing at the time. And maybe back then it wasn't as much, but that's where I found my success. But it's still within big physical boats, trains, planes, operations, getting to lead people, which is what I was passionate about and why I studied economics, because I wanted business, which is why I went and got an MBA, studied finance to understand the numbers and the places. And so stay true to what you're passionate about because you'll always want to learn more. You'll want to be in it. And trust me, the end result may be different than you think. Great quote from our CEO, something I want to share with you guys. Um, he said, hold fast to the vision, be flexible on the details. So
Mhm.
understand your vision in this case might be, I want to work in real estate. Be flexible then on what that looks like. I want to go be in contracts and business. Be flexible on what that is and continue to build your foundation, and you will find what suits you that you may not even know is out there yet.
Mhm.
Right?
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a follow-up question to that. Did you find that in your progression that it was more of your choices or things were just put in front of you and you're like, oh yeah, that actually just, kind of landed in my lap because of, how hard you worked, the relationships you built, or do you feel like your career path was more chosen?
I think any career is both. There's moments you will get lucky and you'll get to choose. There's moments, just as we were talking about before, that you've reached the peak in your current role and you want to step out and you're job hunting, right? And you'll make those choices. So you're doing that. The degree you're choosing to study, the school you choose to go to, where you choose to live, those are choices. And you'll continue to find that. There's other things that come forward. And as I said before, don't be afraid to say yes to something you may not know about yet. And so sometimes things come to you when you're doing a great job. Sometimes things show up. You make a connection, you meet someone you didn't even know was there. And you're like, whoa, okay, that's really cool. Yes. So I think any career is both, but understand when you have a choice and understand when you should just say yes.
Understood. Thank you.
Be flexible on the details.
Yeah.
Ethan, last up,
Last one.
or technically Drew. Sorry.
Um, Jordan, yeah, again, I feel like I'm always repeating. Thanks for coming out. It's always good to have. Kamran has great friends, people willing to come out and talk to us. And yeah, we appreciate your time and words of wisdom. I guess my question is, I feel like I know a lot of people who have made a lot of money doing very niche things, and they do not do corporate at all. And they almost kind of tell me to avoid corporate because it can be very messy. So I was more curious on like, do you recommend people still going into a corporate realm? Do you want like, do you recommend them being more entrepreneurial, doing startup, pursuing something else, or are you like corporate's good? I mean, you've obviously done it a long time. Oh,
No, I was asking my daughter to turn the TV down a little just for a moment. I would rephrase that to what you want to do. You preface the question with a lot of money. That's how you started. You said people have made a lot of money. Money's an outcome of how good you are. And honestly, you can make a lot of money and you're just as stressed. Kamran always told me that, I'll be honest, and it's really true. You can make a lot of money, but it just comes with a lot more zeros on the other end of the balance sheet as well. Most of the time, you make more, you buy a nicer car. You make more, you get a bigger house. You make more, you invest more. You make more, you stand to lose more. There's a lot of that, and that's not a bad thing. Don't take me wrong. That is not a bad thing. What I would say is don't chase what you think is money, the side hustle. The most lucrative job out there today is I want to be a plastic surgeon, so I'm going to be that. If you have zero passion to be a plastic surgeon, that's a really bad plan. You're going to be very unhappy and probably hate it and not even be good at it. And so I say think about what you like. That may lead you to corporate. That may lead you to entrepreneur. I think going into corporate provides a foundation where you can always leave and start something yourself until you see how a large business is run, until you understand what's out there. In many cases, you can learn so much from people who've done it before. The structure, the processes, HR policies, hiring, all the things I just talked about, 2 weeks notices or not, how you're going to find and connect people, what data systems you may or may not use, how finances work, how corporate approvals work, how leadership works. You can always start something on yourself if you have an amazing idea and you want to go out and do it. Though at a young age, sometimes it's nice to go get a little practice while they pay you to practice, right?
yep.
And that's a good spot. And I will revert even somewhat back to here. I look at what Hunter's time with Kamran is Hunter got to go practice with one of the best I know. Go practice. And then you can go figure it out. And I'm sure there will be stumbles. I'm sure it'll be hard. It may not work out. Like being very honest, it might not. But you got practice and then you went and learned and tried and then you practice some more. And so find what you're actually passionate about and what you like in that field. That's more important. But I do think corporate provides a really good foundation for business and learning from people before you.
Right on. Yeah.
Mr. Drew, do you have a question? I know you were a little bit on the backside of it, but is there one that you've been able to come up with?
Yes. Hello, Jordan. How are you?
Doing well, sir. Good to see you again.
Good to see you. Last time was over coffee. How's the missus?
She's lovely. She should be home here any minute. So my wife did a career switch, just everyone very transparently. She worked at Microsoft for a long time, was doing very well there, jumped over to Amazon, was an AWS HR business partner, and decided, to Kamran's point, and decided to chase her dream and become a detective. Joined Bellevue Police Department up here. She's going through the police academy and has been working now, getting up at 4:30 every morning, full virtual job before, casual, running teams, doing great things. And now it's up at 4:30, commutes 40 minutes in to the training academy, then works all day, does physical training, shooting, gun range, policing, all the crazy things, getting stunned, pulling people over. And she's chasing her dream. So yes, she's doing fabulous. She actually just pulled in, so it's really fun out of the garage. Thank you for asking, though.
That's awesome. That's crazy. Good girl. That's awesome. I guess mine's more of a comment than a question. But you said not to be a yes man, and I guess that was something that caught my ear, and I was a little bit surprised. I guess if anything, is there anything you could back on that? I guess that was really it. That was the comment I was gonna. There's a few other things, but
As a leader, I have found the most important people on my team are ones that know more than me, that challenge my thoughts and help drive the business forward and build upon the direction we're going. If someone just says yes to what I say, do, need, I don't need them. That's
Add
not
value.
that's not someone that's bringing value. And truly in Amazon, that's a robot, right? Like think about it, put robots in, just do that.
Yeah.
That's why I say don't lose yourself. Know who you are. Think critically about things and don't be afraid. You don't have to be flamboyant. You don't have to openly disagree and call someone stupid.
Or be disrespectful.
Yeah, never. But you can always present your thoughts, your advice, your opinions in a constructive way that may be differing in how your vantage, your viewpoint, and your foundation has led you to see that situation. That's so much more valuable.
And questions are a great way to do that. I mean, if they're going to say basically everybody says it's red, you think it's blue, you can say, what do you guys think about that as a blue color? If everybody goes, oh, you're stupid, well, then you've proposed the idea without saying they're wrong. It's just good to be, you stand up and you stand up for what you are, but you do it in the form of a question because it's respectful. So guys, I want to take 5 minutes with you before you all run out. Jordan, thank you so very much for pouring into us. This will be available on YouTube somehow. I'm not sure how to get it there, but I'm sure one of these guys will, so that you can share it amongst our friends. But I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing with us. So thank you so much, Jordan. Guys, I will put his address in. Isn't it Heather?
Yes, Heather Avenue.
7 what?
You sold it. I don't know.
Technically, Hunter sold it. I think we should blame Hunter.
You should blame Hunter. Here, let me see. I can drop it in the chat real quick.
I can find it. I don't know the numbers, but it's on Heather. Second hole.
7324 7234
7310.
7310 Heather Avenue. There we go. 7310 Heather Avenue, Walney, Washington 98065. There it is. All right, Jordan, we love you. We appreciate you. And thank you so very much for coming.
Please reach out, anybody, for anything, anytime. Always happy to talk some more, and good luck. And Kamran, always a pleasure, my friend. See you soon.
See ya. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan.